Right now, about 80% of everything you own traveled by sea, and almost all of it squeezed through a handful of waterways so narrow that a single accident or a single navy can choke the global economy in a matter of hours. These are the choke points. Control them, and you control trade itself. Let me show you the ones that matter. First, what exactly is a choke point? It is just what it sounds like. A narrow stretch of water that a huge share of global trade has no choice but to pass through. There is no detour, or the detour costs days at sea and millions of dollars in fuel. That force dependence is what makes them powerful. A handful of these passages quietly decide the price of fuel, food, and electronics for billions of people. Start with the most important one for energy, the Strait of Hormuz. At its narrowest, it is only about 30 kilometers wide, yet roughly a fifth of the world's oil supply moves through it. There is no real alternative route for most of that crude. So when tensions rise in the region, oil traders do not wait for a barrel to actually be blocked. Prices move on the mere possibility of disruption. That is leverage in its purest form. The threat alone is enough to move markets on the other side of the planet. Now travel east to the Strait of Malacca. It links the Indian Ocean to the Pacific, and it carries an enormous share of the trade flowing between the Middle East, Europe, and the factories of East Asia. For an economy that imports its energy and exports its goods, this single strait is a strategic nerve running through the whole system. It explains a surprising amount of behavior you see on the world map. Why certain countries invest so heavily in navies, build ports far from home, and worry about waters thousands of kilometers from their own shores. The dependence is the reason. Then there are the two great shortcuts, both of them built by human hands. The Suez Canal lets ships skip the entire journey around Africa, connecting the Mediterranean to the Red Sea. The Panama Canal cuts through Central America to join the Atlantic and the Pacific. In 2021, a single container ship ran aground and blocked the Suez Canal. Within days, hundreds of vessels were stacked up at both ends, and billions of dollars of trade stalled every single day. The Panama Canal shows a different kind of fragility. It relies on enormous amounts of fresh water to fill the locks that lift ships over the land. When drought strikes, the canal has to cut the number of ships it allows through. One waterway is exposed to politics. The other is exposed to the climate. Both are single points of failure for the entire global supply chain. Put all of these together, and a different map of the world appears. Not a map of borders, but a map of bottlenecks. This is the map that explains why navies concentrate where they do, why insurance on some shipping lanes costs a fortune, and why a local incident in a distant strait can quietly show up on your electricity bill. The system is efficient precisely because it is so concentrated. And that same concentration is exactly what makes it fragile. Efficiency and fragility, it turns out, are often the same thing wearing different clothes. So the next time you want to understand where the global economy is truly vulnerable, do not start with the headlines. Start with the choke points. Watch the narrow water. Because whoever controls these passages controls the flow of the modern world. Next time, we will follow the money instead of the ships, and look at why the American dollar still quietly runs the global economy. If this is how you like to understand the world, the systems underneath the headlines, then subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.